Hello there everybody, it is me FreezerBunny, and welcome back to another Sims 4 CC overview. So today I'm very excited to finally be back with part 4 of Old Manila. This set mainly covers essential items for your Sims' bedrooms. There's also a couple items in there for the family altar or chapel. And there's also a couple items in there for build and buy mode as well. The set comes with a total of 32 new items if I remember correctly, and it'll be on early access starting June 12th and public release will be on July 12th. So please look out for that. But yeah, with all of that good stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and look at all of the items. This set has been in the works for a couple of months already. And I'm really excited because there's a lot of like really cool individual items that I'm really excited to show you guys. But let's go ahead and actually start off with the build mode items. So this set does come with a new floor. We have these gorgeous hardwood planks. And as you can see, they are quite large planks. And these would have been quite valued traditionally because of their natural beauty and also because of the difficulty of getting a large piece of wood. So these come in two different types of swatches. There is a plain swatch and there is also a two-tone swatch, as you can see here. This two-tone in particular, I feel like is such a unique feature of traditional Filipino houses. So I really like using that in my traditional interiors. And another thing that you do see in traditional Filipino interiors are these wooden carvings on the wall called calados. And these are basically transoms because you typically see them on the upper parts of the wall, and they are used to spread lighting and ventilation onto the interior. And these come in 3 separate pieces. So there is this individual piece right here for standalone purposes, and there is also a piece for the sides which you can place like that, and there is also a piece for the middle, so you can extend it however you would like it to. I've also seen this feature in like other Southeast Asian houses, so I thought that was really cool. Typically these are used on the interior, but I also see them occasionally being used on the exterior as well. The door and the wallpaper are from the older Old Manila sets. I think that pretty much does it for all of the interior build items. So let's go ahead and move on to the buy mode items, which is very exciting because there's quite a lot of really cool, interesting new pieces here. And starting off with one of the most detailed pieces, I guess, that I've ever created so far. We have this very beautiful bed, which actually comes in 3 separate pieces. So we have the bed frame, we have the mattress, which is a separate piece, and we also have the canopy, which is a separate piece as well. I like it without the canopy actually because you can see all of the wooden detail, but realistically, you know, they would actually have a canopy because, you know, we have a lot of like bugs and mosquitoes and stuff like that, so it probably would be more comfortable if you had the canopy, and probably more realistic as well. But this bed is so detailed, and it took me like 2 weeks to like make this because of like how much detail it has. But just to give you guys an idea of what it looks like with all of the different swatches, and I just kept with the typical Old Manila swatches that we have. I think this is actually my favorite swatch because you can see a little bit more detail in it. And typically we do have kind of like the weave over here, the cane weave. But yeah, obviously to make this a functional bed, you would need to place a mattress in there, and it slots really nicely in my opinion. And there is also a single version of the canopy bed, which once again comes in separate pieces. You remove the canopy, you can see all of the wooden detail, which is pretty cool. And we also have kind of like more simplified versions of the beds without the canopy, of course, just because I wanted to have more variety. So if you have like multiple bedrooms, for example, you can just use these beds instead. And I think they look just as good as well. And actually, these canopies also come in a plain swatch. I mean, they're not scalloped or laced, because if you look at this swatch closely, you can see kind of like the lace detail. And there's also like a plain version as well if you want that variety. So you also have that option as well. Moving on to our next set of items, we do have quite a lot of closets and wardrobes and dressers. This is a typical dresser that you would see in traditional Filipino houses, and locally we call this the aparador, which is basically just a large piece of furniture used to keep clothing. And this one, in my opinion, is very beautiful. I think it translated really well in game. And typically aparadors come in either just this plain version and a mirrored version as well. And yeah, these are all fully functional. There is a double version right here and a single version, and also double and single versions of the mirrored ones. And let me just scroll through the different swatches here so you can see. Once again, these are typical swatches that we have for the old Manila set. And I actually had a really hard time trying to get these volutes to look right, because it doesn't look like it, but they're actually a pretty complicated shape, and I'm really happy how it turned out. Moving on, we do have more storage items, or clothing storage items. We have this dresser right here, which is also doubles as a desk. So this piece right here is a cabinet, and it does function as a dresser. And this piece doesn't function as a dresser, but it does function as a desk. So you can slot items in here and it'll be functional. So we have a journal right here. If you slot it right here, and if you have a dining chair, your Sims can like journal. You can also slot in some laptops as well. And technically you can also slot in like a computer, even though in my opinion it doesn't look as good, but you can do that because these are just technically desks, so it works just like a normal desk does in game. And there's also some slots up top as well, so you can actually like put one of these things. You would typically see that in traditional interiors as well. But actually, moving on to our next set of items, we do have pieces for the family altar, or if you were a particularly rich family, you would have a separate room dedicated to be a family chapel. So we have this very beautiful altar table actually, and altar tables have a very long history in Filipino furniture actually, because the original ones were kind of like inspired by the Ming Dynasty, and they kind of like evolved into kind of like their own thing, which as you can see right here, this is probably the oldest piece so far in Old Manila, because for the Old Manila pieces I try to go for like the mid to late 1800s, but for this piece it would probably be from the early 1800s, like 1810s, or maybe even like the late 18th century, so late 1700s. But as you can see, this is a very interesting form. Don't really see anything like it anywhere else, and yeah, it has a lot of like really complicated shapes, as you can see. And I'm really happy how this turned out as well. I think this is another piece that translated really well in game. And just to give you an idea of how the swatches look like, I think this piece looks particularly good with the darker swatches, so you guys can play around with that as well. There is also a gothic niche, and typically they would put like statues of saints in here and stuff. I decided to not do religious statues for this set. I'd like to think that this is more of a symbolic piece. There's also no slots in this, but you guys can easily like put items inside of it with the move objects key. And once again, I feel like this is a piece that translated really well in game. If you look at it closely, there's like a lot of really nice detail over there. So really happy how this turned out. And you might also want to put like candles on either side of it just to make it look even more like an altar table. And there's also a kneeler, and this is just a decorative piece. This is actually inspired by the kneelers in Casa Gorordo, which is an ancestral house with its own dedicated room for the family chapel. And it was built in like the mid 19th century, so very period appropriate for the set. And this is actually the item that has the most swatches in the set. So yeah, I really like the blue and the red swatches actually. And also for this set, I decided to redo the planters that we had in the previous set just because I wasn't really happy with how the textures look. And I also kind of played around with the proportions a little bit. I think the proportions for these ones turned out way nicer in my opinion. So these come in 3 separate pieces. We have the pedestal, and we have the 2 planters. We have this one, and we have 1 planter that's on a stand. And this one also comes in like a ton of swatches, but there's also a plain swatch for the planters themselves, so you can play around with it. And I also managed to add 2 new plants for this set as well. So there is the flowering house plant, which is just a flowering version of the plant from the previous set, and these should slot quite nicely onto the planters right here. So yeah, there is a red flower and there is a white variation as well. And there is also a new fern. I think this actually looks really good on the interiors. I think it adds some color and some texture. Actually, both of these plants do. And yeah, I'm really happy how this turned out as well. And once again, this piece slots onto the planters quite nicely as well. And this table is from an older set. I think it's from part 3 actually. I just used it to show you guys how, you know, cohesive the whole set looks. So yeah. And actually moving on to the next batch of items, we do have these religious paintings, if the game camera will cooperate with me. But we do have these religious paintings right here. And these are real life paintings painted by Filipino artists in the 19th century. And as you can see, they do have like some gilding on them. This took me forever because I had to like mask the gold parts individually, and it took me forever. I didn't realize that you can just, you know, there's an option to like select the color range and stuff, and made life easier for me eventually after I discovered it. But yeah, this is actually a smaller painting in real life, but I find that the textures work better if you make it larger and just sized it down. And yeah, these are more typical of like early to mid 19th century paintings in the Philippines, which are mostly like religious paintings actually. We don't really see like domestic or secular art, you know, like domestic portraits and stuff like that until the second half of the 19th century. So the swatches for these are once again your typical old Manila swatches. I think this piece in particular translated really well in game, so really happy how that one turned out. And lastly, but definitely not the least, we do have the new set of lighting. So these lights are actually candles, so they do have that candlelight effect. And these are very typical of 19th century Filipino lights. You see these all over the place in, you know, depictions of 19th century Filipino houses, especially on the interior. And yeah, I'm really excited to finally have them in The Sims. Apparently these are called bell jar lanterns, and I'm just going through all of the different swatches for you guys. And yeah, I'm really happy how these turned out. I think they looked really good. I'm really proud of myself for taking the time to look at all of the tutorials and to properly learn how to make these lights. Now that we have had a chance to look at all of the new items that come with this set, I do want to give you guys a little bit of a tour of the house that we have so far. We don't have that much going on the ground floor. So let's go ahead and actually move on to the second floor actually, because that's where most of the new items are. So this is our interior, and as you can see, we are slowly filling up the place with our period appropriate furniture. And I'm really happy with how it's turning out so far. I do think that all of the new items from this set really help deliver on the kind of like historically accurate vibes. I love how the light looks. I like the reflections. I love how the floor has kind of like a light reflectiveness to it as well. And honestly, I love how the flowers look. I think they add a touch of color that's been missing from the set. So I'm really, really happy with how they turned out. And yeah, we also have some bedrooms as well. So we have the master bedroom right here with a little altar area. And we have what I'd like to think is the kids' bedroom right here with their mirrored cabinet and, you know, their identical beds right here. And we also have this bedroom right here, which in my opinion is for kind of like maybe the older brother or kind of like the uncle who lives with them, who is also a writer. Filipino Easter egg right here, by the way. But yeah, I am really loving this room actually. I think I would be happy here if I lived here. And yeah, really, really happy with how it all came together. I think it's really cozy, not gonna lie. I know that word's a bit overused nowadays, but I think it's pretty cozy, and I'm really happy with how everything turned out. And of course, we have our calados right here, so it really adds a touch of realism and detail to the interior that I never thought I would ever see in The Sims, let alone, you know, thought I would be the one to be able to bring that to The Sims. It's just pretty crazy. So enough rambling. You know, I have fanboyed quite enough about traditional Filipino interiors for this video, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually wrap it up right here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well, and you can definitely expect more Filipino inspired builds from me in the future as well. Before I go, I just want to thank everybody who has supported the set by joining the early access period. It really does help out a lot, and the only time that we can really monetize our creations is through early access. So if you guys are able to, I would really appreciate if you guys can check that out. And also just by sharing and spreading the word about my creations, it also helped out a lot. So everybody who was excited about this on Twitter and has been retweeting it and liking my posts, those are also very much appreciated as well. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.